600 volunteers, ushers. We miss you terribly. We can't wait for you to come back. And in the meantime, it's my pleasure to give you this tour. So no further delay, why don't I just start right away. So I'm going to talk initially about the outside, the facade. The Bushnell opened up January 13th, 1930. It's Georgian Revival exterior with a purely Art Deco interior. If you look at the outside of the building, you'll see side banding of Indiana limestone. There was 90 railroad trailer loads of that. There was also 2 million colonial bricks that went into building the building, and there was 950 tons of structural steel. The Courtyard was designed in 2001 to add the Bushnell's Belding Theater to it. And if you notice on the brick, between two planters, you see sort of a small brick wall in front of that oak tree. There's two planters and it's sort of a little blondish colored sidewalk. That's the arc of the sun. And if you see the paths built in the brick, that's bringing the sunrise, which is an Art Deco element from the outside to the inside. And if you notice in the carpet, you'll see the moon, the stars, it's the sun, etc. They also designed that courtyard in such a way they wanted to preserve that grand oak tree. And when people came up Capitol Avenue, they wanted to preserve the view of the original Bushnell Memorial Hall. Now, I'm not sure if you can see it from this venue. There is the Belding Theater, and it maintains a lot of the Art Deco elements, but it's much more modern, lots of open glass. I'm standing right now in the lobby between the two buildings. Again, you can see the Art Deco elements. This almost looks like a cruise ship, a grand staircase. I'll point out a lot of Art Deco elements, the lacquered wood, the stainless steel, the brushed aluminum, etc. All that I'll be pointing out as we go through the tour. Next, we'll move to the Promenade Gallery. Follow me. So this is the Promenade Gallery. What you're looking at is, it's called the Promenade Gallery because they showcase artwork from local, regional, and national artists. They also showcase show-specific information here as well. If there's a holiday event, let's say during Christmas and stuff, Santa and Mrs. Claus may be sitting there as well. One thing I do want to point out is the area that I'm standing in, including the bar right here. There used to be 500 seats. They found that initially these were acoustically dead and visually poor, so they pushed the theater inside, and they took 500 seats away. What they did add was what's called our East and West bars, which they make a lot more state revenue to selling alcohol than they did selling tickets. There's two monitors in each corner down the side. Those are for advertisers and Bushnell sponsors. They showcase the logos and stuff of various businesses. Recently installed are two monitors right here above the two doors. So if patrons by chance unfortunately arrive late, the production company has a set schedule. So sometimes when the show starts, there's a hold. And what they do is, once the doors close initially, people are not allowed in until the stage crew says it's okay. They can watch the show there. So one of the things that you just learned just now, arrive to the show on time. Follow me. Oh, one thing I do want to point out, this stepped form, this cornice, the stepped form, it is an Art Deco element, the stepped form. The gilding in the ceiling, you see the sharp contrasting colors up there, that's also Art Deco element. So welcome to the Breaching and David Coffin Green Foyer. And my voice, I'm sorry, is probably echoing in this. This is where you're going to be entering the theater through the Capitol Avenue doors and also from the West Marquee. What I'm going to point out right here is the seal of the City of Hartford. And it's actually, this seal is also, you'll find it all around Hartford as well. It was adopted in 1852. And at the top is an American eagle, and in his talons is a furled American flag right here. Usually when you talk to youth groups, like little children and stuff, they think that's a candy cane. Down in the center is a male deer, otherwise known as a hart. He is fording a stream. I don't know if this is coincidental or not, but Hart Ford. So I'll throw that in there. Below are 3 bunches of grapes, representing the first 3 permanent settlements on the Connecticut River. Weathersfield in 1633. I screwed that up. Windsor in 1633, Weathersfield in 1634, Hartford in 1635. I apologize for that. It also represents the fruitfulness of the land. Down below, for all those of you that know Latin, and I'm sure I'm not pronouncing this correctly, post nubula Phoebus, after the clouds the sun. Remember, this opened up right after the Depression, or during the Depression, I should say 1930. So people used the theater to escape. You know, times were tough. Theater was a way to escape and just enjoy life. I'll talk a little bit about Art Deco elements. It was a design element that was very popular for the rich. It was jade, crystal, lacquered wood and stuff, and then it went to plastics and steel and chrome. And it was a design element that was most affordable for almost everybody. It was very, very popular. It was progress through technology, so sometimes you'll see cocktail shakers that look like rocket ships. You'll see toasters that are very aerodynamic. Again, progress through technology. Most people, when you mention Art Deco, they think of clinking cocktail glasses, high Hollywood musicals, big skyscrapers. The Radio City Music Hall is very Art Deco. The Empire State Building, the Chrysler Building, just some elements of Art Deco. And I'll point other Art Deco elements as we go forward. We're going to go into the gray line. And I'm going to go through this room, and this is how we're going to go. I just want to mention this is in honor of Helen and Harry Gray. Helen and Harry Gray, he was president of United Technologies. They were big benefactors to the Bushnell, as well as to Helen and Harry Gray Cancer Center over at Hartford Hospital. This area right now used to be the original ticket booth. I know there were more windows than that, but they did, Bushnell did maintain one of the original ticket windows. I also want to just point out that over the windows are concise statements from Horace Bushnell's writings. And if you notice, I believe it was a Latin alphabet, the U looks like a V, or the V at the time was representative of a U. Also, this is the only way that people who came to the theater who bought balcony tickets, the only way they could actually enter the balcony is through a staircase right there, 65 steps, with the elevator straight ahead, which we're going to take upstairs. There's a staircase, but that only goes to the mezzanine level. That was intentional at the time, because they did not want the people who bought expensive tickets to mingle with the people who bought really cheap seats. And that was intentional at the time. Interesting fact, Bill Mortensen, who was the managing director of Bushnell at the time, the city of Hartford used to publish a little leaflet of who owned automobiles and stuff, because most people who arrived here when it first opened up came by trolley or horse and stuff. And what they found out was that they didn't take into consideration, even though automobiles were coming into play, they did not take into consideration parking, which is interesting even today. Although they're doing very good. We're going up to the Hillier Suite. This was Dotha Bushnell, who was Horace Bushnell's daughter, who created the Bushnell. This was her private viewing booth initially. And up until 2001, this was the only reception space. It's quite small. It doesn't look like much at the moment, but Max Catering, who does all of the event planning here, when they decorate it, and it's got white tablecloths, it's actually quite beautiful. If you notice the lights, they look like portholes on a ship. Again, another Art Deco element. We are 5 stories high. This room is also used for, we do host a lot of weddings here, so this is used sometimes as a bride's dressing room. It's also used, TV monitor, when a show comes here scheduled to play at the Bushnell, and there's hearing impaired or deaf patrons, the signers come up here and practice. And they depending on the show, they're here for a week, and they'll practice during the week while the show's playing through the monitor. And then I believe it's Sunday matinee or Sunday evening, they actually go live, sitting to the side of the stage, signing for the deaf folks. Interesting thing, they use American Sign Language, and they came to one of our tour guide meetings, and I was quite impressed. They'd almost have to study like a doctor to even get to that level to be on the stage. What I learned was, I always thought they were signing exactly the dialogue, and they're not. So if someone's saying, "Hi, how are you?" they're not motioning with their hands, "Hi, how are you?" They're gestures and their meaning. There's sometimes in a script, it may repeat. In the room where it happened, like with Hamilton, they would use different gestures to create or meanings to create what that phrase actually says. They do get scripts and stuff for some of these shows 6 weeks in advance to plan for this. They did tell us also when like a comedian comes in, like Jay Leno, what they do is they actually Google or YouTube videos of some of his performances. So some of the jokes, they have an idea of what he's going to say, and they can help plan for that as well. Let's move into the projection room. Okay, so we're 5 stories from the lobby. And if you look outside the window to the stage, we're approximately 200 feet from the center of the stage. We're about the same length as a hockey rink. I don't know if you can tell by the viewing, but you can see a square megaphonic shape of the hall, which does enhance the acoustics of the theater. At the time, there were 2 carbon arc spotlights called Super Troopers. So you know that song by ABBA, Super Trooper, lights are gonna find me. They're actually talking about these specific spotlights. So what I was told was that the carbon arc spotlights got so hot that they had to be vented outside. So one of the projectionists in one show, I guess, I was up here giving a tour, and he says, "We don't have any carbon arc spotlights now." So I think they have upgraded their spotlights, so they probably don't burn as hot as they used to. So they have, I think, a local union person does the center spot is controlled by a touring company employee, and they have the 2 other spots that are done by locals. If you work on certain shows, you have to belong to a union to work up here. And as you can see on the sides of the walls, you see various shows that have appeared at the Bushnell over the years, and you'll see, you know, this is Ron Maley, Local 84. Local 84 is the Hartford Union. If you see Local 1, which I haven't seen too many of those, but I know they are here, that means Broadway. And so you see a lot of different numbers, and it just represents different unions across the country. White light is mainly used for concerts. And colored gels, this is probably an old version of a colored gel. It's not very colorful, but it gives you an idea. It softens, and these are used for Broadway shows as well. I believe the newer spotlights have sort of built-in filters to these already, so they can pick and choose what color they want. But there's, you know, at the time, there's a lot of different colored gels. And that's pretty much I have on the projection room. Everything was done very manually at the time. There's a lot of 15 millimeter and 35 millimeter players, but in today's world, in front of the mezzanine, and I'll try to point that out later, there's a shelf, and they usually put a digital player to play a movie on the screen, on the big screen on the stage. Good. So yeah, you can see it's just sort of all over. And sometimes when a show comes here multiple times, you see it updated, you know, certain names are updated, dates, etc. So if you come up here, this is an extension of the billiard suite. Again, it's just a small room. There weren't, you know, there weren't a lot of people who came here at the time, and I think you could have 40 people standing and 28 sitting. But there's various, pictures of performers right here. Magician David Copperfield, pantomime Marceau. So they try to just reflect a lot of the performances that have been here over the years. And then the back used to be a very small kitchenette. So one thing, actually I'll stay here for 1 second. One thing I forgot to mention was, I asked the signers, because this elevator cab that we're going to go into back is the original elevator cab. And the problem is, this is an elevator that you have to actually press the button and call. If you don't press the button and call it, the elevator just stays put. Interesting thing, over the years, this elevator only travels to this floor. Ding, the doors open up and there's nobody there. So I was here giving a youth a tour, and when we came up, the signers were practicing. I had no idea, and they let us come in, and I asked the question. I said, when you're here, does this elevator open up and she says, all the time. I go, is there anybody in it? And she says, no. So we think it's the ghost of Dotha Bushnell, because she's the founding, mother, so to speak, of the Bushnell, and this was her private viewing room. So she's a good ghost.
Wait, we have a question.
Sure.
I want to know who's behind the camera.
It's Taylor from the Bushnell. So we're going to go to the Severance Room. The Severance Room is dedicated, it used to be called the Colonial Room, and you'll see why. It was dedicated when so you can see why. This is the Colonial Room. It's the only in the building, and it was built in such a way as a dedication to Horace Bushnell. Right on the wall right here is the only portrait, actually, oil portrait here in the building of him. It was designed as a special memorial to him. This room is used as a lounge for mezzanine patrons, catered receptions. I've even been here for volunteer training. I did a tour for an 11-year-old birthday party, and they had this massive banquet table with huge balloons and all kinds of finger food and stuff for the kids. I worked a show for the Travelers Championship that they had the golfers, Phil Mickelson and company, come up, and they had a small presentation there. There's weddings here. There's small concerts here. It can even be rented by you. Any space you see here, the lobbies, the hallways, everything is rentable space, and please feel free to do so. So the walls are hand-carved ponderosa pine. French doors, which are now locked, but they do lead to an inviting covered terrace. The base of the walls is black Belgian marble, and we seem to be mixed consensus on the fireplace. We believe at one time it was a working fireplace. It's not working today. The oil painting that you just showed of Horace Bushnell was donated by his granddaughter, Mary Severance. It's the work of Frank Weston Benson, one of the decorators of the Library of Congress. In the front, there's a chamber stage. We used to have a grand piano. There's now just a spinet piano on the side. The speakers on either side of the walls, those have been recently updated. They used to be kind of big speakers. Those wood panels actually open up for, they had other speakers there and for other lighting. There's glass cabinet type hutches over here on the right and the left that at one time used to house Bushnell memorabilia. We're trying to get them to just put information, shows coming, you can rent this space, you can have a tour, etc. The room was completely refurbished in 1991. And any artwork that you see, sort of like that big art, it's on loan from the New Britain Museum. And the ceiling, you don't notice it at first, but if you look at the wood panel, the wood soft ponderosa pine, you realize that the ceiling actually has a curved effect. It's not a flat ceiling. Okay, we'll move to the mezzanine. celestial elements that represent Art Deco. So take it all in. This is a purely Art Deco grand theater. I mean, I try not to take it for granted, but I did work a show that was high school kids from the whole East Coast. It was a music festival. And I remember a woman came into my section over to the left there. And as soon as she stepped into the theater, she just gasped for air and just said, "Oh, wow." So again, we probably take it for granted, but it is quite a treasure to have. So I'm probably going to face this way, so I don't know if you want to be a little bit more in front. So there's 3 levels to this theater. There's the balcony, which has 652 seats. There's the mezzanine level, which has 988 seats. And the orchestra level, 1,159 seats. So a total of 2,799. The stage proscenium, which is the opening of the stage, that gold leaf, you can see the stepped form on that as well, Art Deco elements. That is 47 feet wide by 28 feet high. We're roughly half the size of Radio City Music Hall. And an interesting fact, we came first, but we were designed by the same architect firm that went on to subsequently get famous for designing Radio City Music Hall. They also did us. Our inspiration, Dotha's inspiration, Springfield Symphony Hall up in Springfield, Massachusetts. So one of the things, I'm going to point out a number of things here. If I can get my, oops, if I can get my laser pointer. One of the other Art Deco elements that I'll point out right now is, if you look on the mezzanine stairs, right in the front area is called the loge. That stepped form right there is also an Art Deco element there. This shelf right here, can you see that? That shelf is where they put the digital players for movies. They also sometimes will light a red light there. So when there's a ballet show and ballerinas and stuff on the stage when they're turning, they need to narrate a spot in the darkness, they can focus on a red light there. Okay, what I'm going to talk about is the ceiling. And you're looking at the largest ceiling mural of its kind in the United States. And I hope my laser does show up. But the ceiling mural is called Drama. It was painted in 1929 by Barry Faulkner and 3 Prix de Rome Art Scholar winners from his New York studio at Grand Central Station. He also did the murals for the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence at the National Archives in 1936. Drama is oil on canvas and is painted on panels that took 5 months to complete. It's almost 200 feet in length, and it's hung on the roof of the building on a forest of metal rods. At the time, it cost $50,000. It took 5 months to paint, including 3 months to trace out the design. The price to clean it in the 1980s was $140,000. That was because they had to set up scaffolding, literally carry up buckets of water, clean the mural, again, come down, get fresh water, etc. The main culprit of that was cigarette smoke, which probably won't be cleaned in our lifetime again because cigarette smoke they don't allow smoking in this building anymore. So the main pollutant is no longer there. It has a foundation of wood and paper mache, which also adds to the acoustics. I'm going to point out some things now on the mural. So in the center, we have the central muse of drama right there. And in her hand, she's got the masks of comedy, mask of tragedy, and over her shoulder is an angel. Below her are symbols of music and drama. And again, this is the heavens, the ancient heavens. This, I'm told, is not to be referred to as a casket, but at the time they referred to it as a burial container. So there's symbols of music and drama there, but again, it is the heavens, and they talk about a burial container here. Below her is the night sky, representative of ancient times when we believe drama and theater was done in the evening. You can see Cancer the crab, the constellations, Leo the lion, Gemini the twins, and we believe this is Sagittarius. Again, it represents things of past to ancient times. I'm going to just separate a thought process for a little bit here because I'm talking about the night sky. But if you see that, it's hard to see a little bit, but at the top of the night sky, I'm circling it with my laser pointer. There's a hole in the ceiling. That was actually made by the production company of Phantom of the Opera. The first time they came here, they had to bore a hole in that area to support the chandelier during the opening scene. So you'll see sometimes theaters do make accommodations for various shows, and there's a few others, so I'll point them out as we connect on the tour again. Again, this represents ancient times, ancient skies. So what happens now is the theme of newness. 1920s brought a new era in America. So we have over here this cameraman. This cameraman on the right-hand side is filming on the left-hand side this gentleman here. This gentleman represents Al Jolson, the jazz singer, the first walkie-talkie picture. That was a big deal in the 1920s. And so our mural commemorates that point in time. Also, other miracles of the 20th century, skyscrapers burst in the clouds to the sun. Again, after the clouds, the sun. So that theme still holds true. And then further on, you see airplanes. There's a number of airplanes over here, over here. Again, planes and skyscrapers were marvels of the 20th century. Drama is a representation of ancient traditions and new ideas. One thing I did not explain yet, and I'll go to right now because I bypassed it, is right above the cameraman is this winged wheel. This winged wheel, we were initially told nobody knew what it was. But then we asked an executive here, Ronna Reynolds, who had been here for a number of years, and she goes, oh, I know what that is. She goes, that's the symbol of the unions. It's the musicians union, the stagehands union, and the projectionists union. That's their symbol. We were told initially that the third order of angels are known as the wheels. So we believe this was the Bushnell's guardian angel. So that's what we were referring to it as at the time. So the Austin, one thing I'm going to point out is the curtains on either side of the stage. These first three curtains, you do see some lights right here on the third one back. Those first three bays house 5,263 organ pipes on both sides. Trying to get up here if I can. So the Austin organ, which you don't see, but I don't know if maybe you can pick that up. The Austin Organ Company was built by or I should say our organ was built by the Austin Organ Company in 1929 at a cost of $45,000. The pipes on either side, and this will give them a little description. The pipes are metal and wood. They're smaller than my laser pen, and they're bigger than, they're like 3 stories high and like hugely around. And those first 3 bays are where they are. We were able, as tour guides, to tour that area. Literally, it's not like a pretty sidewalk because you're literally skirting by like this on the walkway. It's not a big open walkway, and there's a 3-story drop, so it's quite impressive. There is a air pressure room over there, so when they plug in the organ, and currently it's in a climate-controlled room in the basement. They'll bring it up by elevator, plug it into the stage. We got to actually crawl into that air pressure room, and the organist played, and the sound was just phenomenal. They still do use it for concerts. Again, I'm going to point out the Travelers Choral Group used it for their holiday show at the end of the performance, and the audience just raved about it. I know Carolyn Kwan, who's the conductor of the Hartford Symphony, I know she's used it a few times, and I know some music schools like the University of Hartford, Hart School of Music, I know they've also been in here for concerts as well. The organ, believe it or not, years ago went into total disarray. They weren't using it. It was offered in a trade journal for sale. Max Belding offered $375,000 towards a $500,000 restoration. And we have it today, and it's a beautiful instrument. In 2009, it was valued at, I want to make sure I got this right, $3.5 million. So I'm assuming it's even worth more today. So we'll take a little walk downstairs. I was going to go this way. Oh, it's dark. Okay. Oops. We had a little moment of darkness. We're just taking the elevator down to we're going to go straight to the Mortensen stage. One interesting fact as you probably noticed, I'll kill a little time here. When you go to the snack bar and you order snacks, for instance, and we're gonna wait. Yeah. So you order those snacks from the snack bar, certain bagged potato chips, candy, etc. Broadway standards. So Broadway allows drinking and eating in the theater. We allow drinking and eating in the theater. But yeah, it's interesting because some people ask why we don't sell certain snacks, and that's probably why. Again, another lobby area you could rent. And not that it may be difficult to see, but we do house or host things here, and they've been quite a few. And here's some photographer, and they're just beautiful. Let's see. There we go. So we're in the lobby area between the two theaters. Belding Theater on my right, Martinson Hall on my left. Welcome to the stage. So you're looking at 2,799 seats. And most tours that I give, I ask people, what do you think? And most people say, it doesn't look like that many seats. So it's quite interesting. This is a couple things I'll point out. So the first performer here, in January 13th, 1930, Dotha Bushnell wanted the orchestra leader she saw in Springfield, Massachusetts. And the gentleman she saw that she loved so much was Leopold Stokowski. And the first piece of music that was played here was Ode to Joy. And people are saying, who's Leopold Stokowski? That's Leopold Stokowski. He was in Fantasia with Mickey Mouse. So then people go, oh, I know who he is now. So anyway, January 13th, 1930 was a grand gala. And it was filled to capacity. One of the interesting things was, as I said before, people went to the theater to escape. And they wore their finest. They wore their top shelf clothing. At the time, it was packed away because it was the Depression. Well, guess what? When people sat down and they put their hands in their pockets, they realized there was mothballs. So they kind of would take the mothballs and just drop them on the floor. Well, after 3 days of events, there was a big pile of mothballs at the edge of the stage. And I'm sure it placed a little odor as well. You don't want to be under the guillotine drape because it weighs 600 pounds when it drops. And this right here is called a ghost light, and it's sent to ward away ghosts of past performances. But actually, by law, it has to be here. Because if you and I were not here on the stage right now, this would be the only light on in this entire complex. So by law, yes, it has to be here. And this is right at the edge of the stage. Right here, where I'm standing forward, is what's called the stage apron. So this has 4 levels. It goes basement, orchestra pit, floor, and stage. So when it's floor level, 77 seats are added here. So that's part of the 2,799 seats. Interesting fact, when Idina Menzel came, she came for a concert a few years ago, and these 77 seats were sold. And people were very excited that they were going to have front row seats for her. Well, what had happened was when she came with her crew, she was like, no, I need this part of the stage. This is how I meet my fans. I like to go out to my fans, so she didn't feel like she was on the stage. Well, all these people who bought seats here were now rendered with no seats. Luckily, the Bushnell had extra seats. They refunded the ticket price of these people, gave them complimentary seats elsewhere in the theater, but obviously they were not a happy crew. Again, that was some miscommunication between production company and theater. Ceiling height from the orchestra to the mural, 54 feet. And again, you can see, if you go back, you can see where the projection room was that we were just in before. You see again right there the symbols of music. We believe this is just growth. Bushnell's growing. We're 90 years old this year. Big deal, and we continue to grow. On either side, in the far corners, is the lighting booth and a sound booth on the right-hand side. Completed, they did a whole Martinson Hall restoration in 2005 for the 75th anniversary. So let's see. When Katharine Hepburn came, she walked out on the stage, and again, she was known as the local girl. So she walked out on the stage, I guess during a rehearsal, and she said, "My God, what a barn." That's how she described this theater. Leopold Stokowski, on the other hand, described this as the finest theater in the world acoustically. He said, because when sound travels, it travels up and over. So if you're here for the orchestra, you probably want to be in the balcony because that's the best sound. If you like to see faces, you want to be in the orchestra. When Gene Autry came with his two horses, one took a bite out of the stagehand's arm, and the other one took a bite out of a piano leg. Judy Garland, and the interesting thing was not this exact piece, but the thought process was portrayed in the movie Judy that was just on the movie theaters not too long ago. She had such stage fright that she literally had to be bumped on stage by a Bushnell employee to go, and that scenario was represented in that movie. So it must have been a very big part of her life. The Bushnell, I should point this out, the Bushnell is very, very pro for African American rights. Marian Anderson, who was denied to sing in Constitution Hall in Washington, D.C. by the Daughters of the American Revolution, the Bushnell contacted her right away and invited her up to perform here, and she did. A typical Broadway show has 5 to 6 trailer loads. When Lion King first came here, they had 31, and they've downsized to 18. When Wicked came, I talked to one of the stagehands people, and he said they had about 13. He said one trailer load was just souvenirs, one trailer load was just costumes, another trailer load was just portable office. They have these little pop-up office desks and stuff, because irregardless, it is a traveling show, and it moves from place to place to place. So it's quite interesting, how much equipment they really have to bring per show. If there is a show that comes here and it has quite a number of trailers, the overflow goes to Rentschler Field in East Hartford, and they stage the trucks there during the few weeks that the big show might be here. For the 1996 presidential debate, the entire mezzanine level was boarded over so they could accommodate camera crews to broadcast the debate nationwide. They also had big, huge air conditioning units across the street with special hoses and piping coming up to the stage, because when the candidates were here, they needed to make sure that the candidates weren't sweating, so they made sure that they were comfortable. And they installed an ice rink here for Ty Babyloni and Randy Gardner, Olympians. They skated here. One thing I need to point out is these three doors in the back. Part of a gift from the production company of Phantom of the Opera. I'll go too far back. Phantom was, as I was told, was a loaded production company. They had so much money. They were so popular and everything. So what they did was they would approach smaller to mid-sized theaters and say, geez, if you allow us to make accommodations to your theater, you can host a show, and you can also have other mega hits come to you as well. So those 3 doors on the far side is a big loading area that Phantom did for us at their cost. So it was really nice. And it helped us get Wicked, Lion King, etc. One thing I want to point out, and maybe a little bit difficult to see in the corner, I'm going to focus right just to the left of that post. You see this jagged rock right here? Can you see that? So what that is there used to be a room up there, and there used to be another floor in a room, and they tore that down because when Showboat came years ago, the only way they could get Showboat off the stage was to knock that floor out, and that was the only way they could do that. Because if you look on this side, there's really no depth. Follow me, we'll go to the Stars dressing room. Shows travel with a core of about 10 people. The rest of the folks they get from local unions. So when Lion King comes here and it takes a week to load in, they get a lot of the local people to load that in. And they work around the clock. No lie. It's amazing, the stuff that has to happen. Okay, so this is This is the star's dressing room, also known as the green room. And it kind of has a greenish hue, sort of, but that's not the reason why it's called the green room. We think that it may be called the green room because in ancient times, it was a grassy knoll off to the side of the amphitheater. And we think that's how the name derived over the years. So I know it doesn't look super fancy, but stars apparently, according to the Bushnell, love this room because it is literally right off stage. I mean, the star can just pop out and do a quick appearance if they had to. So contracts, if you are the star of the show, your contract, it doesn't matter where you're appearing worldwide, your contract will say you will occupy the green room if you are the star of the show. So when Yul Brynner came, the room was initially painted green. He came for The King and I. The room was initially painted green. He hated the color green, and they gave his wife a panel of colors, and she chose brown, and she wanted brown towels waiting for him. So that's what they did to accommodate him. When Carol Channing came, she required air conditioning. So air conditioning was installed for Hello Dolly, otherwise she wouldn't come. So we have air conditioning in here. When Eugene Ormandy, he was a conductor of the Philadelphia Orchestra. When he came, he said he wouldn't come unless it was a private bathroom. So right on the other side is a nice private bathroom. There is a private sink, a private shower, a private toilet, etc. Linda Evans and Joan Collins of Dynasty days, when they came, they wanted cable TV. So in the corner over here is a cable television, courtesy for them. Diana Ross, when she comes, she wants all this furniture is removed, and it's white furniture, white drapes, etc., and there's got to be white flowers waiting for her. She did ask our security folks, when she appeared this last time, if they were going straight to Canada, and they didn't have a chance to do it, so she asked them if they could go to get Ben & Jerry's butter pecan ice cream at the store for her. Tyler Perry brings his own hot water heater with tea and lemon. And one thing I want to point out here is it looks really nice. There's a nice curtain. But you can see like a garage door that kind of just slides up. The first time that Lion King came, they had no way to get the puppets and Pride Rock off stage. So they had to cut a hole, and this was used for puppet storage during the show. So downstairs, I should say 1989, Ed Asner came with Madeline Kahn for Born Yesterday. And Ed Asner got this room because he was the star of the show. But being the chivalrous guy that he is, he gave it to Madeline Kahn. So the Bushnell went downstairs, apparently directly downstairs from here, is another room similar to this that they've now created a second star's dressing room, and they call it the Ed Asner Room. So during that 1996 debate, President Clinton could not use this room because these are windows, and it caused a security issue. So he went downstairs, and I believe it was Bob Dole, his opponent, used this room instead. We did ask the stage manager, Mike Sevo, we asked who his favorite star was over the years. He said hands down it was Mickey Rooney. He said the guy would hug you, he'd grab a coffee with you, he'd laugh with you, cry with you, etc. We asked who his worst person was that he worked with. He said Anthony Quinn of Zorba the Greek. He said the man was just nasty to everybody. We did ask if people, stars come with, I'm sorry, but I only eat red M&Ms, hands down. And he says they don't get those kind of things, but I did talk to somebody in the industry, and he said sometimes they put something quirky in that, like that in their contract. So when they walk in the star's dressing room and they see a bowl of red M&Ms, they know the place has read their contract. So could be one or the other. When Michelle Obama came, I specifically asked, and this was post-presidency, I specifically asked if she was going to be occupying this room, and they said yes, she was, but they were going to put metal sheathing over these windows. Her visit was orchestrated in such a way that she couldn't be in one position more than 3 minutes. I mean, obviously when she was on stage talking to the audience, there was Secret Servicemen looking at the audience, watching the audience. But when she wasn't on stage, they kept her moving throughout. Her favorite snack food requested was snack food popcorn. I think I said that right. Also, there was bomb sniffing dogs in the area, and there were snipers on the surrounding buildings. So the Bushnell takes things very, very seriously, depending on who's here. Another tidbit, when Aretha Franklin came, this was years ago, when she arrived, she said, by the way, I don't sing unless I'm paid in cash. So her fee at the time was $50,000, and she, apparently the box office did whatever they had to do to get $50,000, and they gave her an envelope with $50,000 in cash in it. She fanned it, shoved it in her purse, walked on stage with her purse, plunked it down on the piano, sang her concert. When her concert was over, she then was expecting to just rehearse for her next gig, and the Bushnell said, "You're out of here," and they just started shutting everything down. And said, "I'm not paying my guys overtime, for something that we're not getting anything for." So I don't think they were very, very happy. Ann Miller, she was a tap dancer in Sugar Baby. So when she came, before every performance, she would go and leave little bits of Kleenex down on the stage where she felt it was rough, and she demanded that it be sanded down to a smooth surface before she appeared. That's pretty much it for tidbits. I have a couple more, but I may tell them along the way. Follow me. I probably should have things up a little bit, but this is our famous autograph room. So this was Bushnell tradition. The chief electrician invited the star of the show to sign the wall. Now, I will point out some in a minute. If not a star person or someone who either wasn't the star of the show or was not invited to sign the wall, but then signed it anyway, the head electrician would pull out his can of paint and paint over it. In the early 1990s, rewiring caused a leak from the roof, and the moisture came in behind the signature wall, so it lifted the paint off. They talked to conservators from the Wadsworth Athenaeum about preserving it, and there was really nothing that they could do. But over the years, the walls have been heavily photographed, heavily documented. As you can see, stuff covers it up, and even since I've been given tours, I've seen additional stuff cover up autographs, but it has been photographed and documented pretty well. Between the two theaters, there is a glass panel with etched autographs of some of the more famous ones. So here's some. So the first name to peel, which is ironic, right here, was Sally Rand. She was a 1920s fan dancer and stripper. So the fact that her name peeled first is kind of ironic. Carly Simon, right there. Katharine Hepburn, she signed it Local Girl. She wanted to stake her claim on the theater, and she, when a local TV network interviewed her, he described her as Katharine Hepburn. Oh, she's our local girl, so she made sure she signed it there, so people knew this is my territory, not yours. Ricky Nelson, right there, up above the Blue Man Group. One thing that's kind of interesting is to the right, there's Idina Menzel, and there's her little witch hat because she was the original witch in Wicked. John Riett, right there. Now I'm going to go to the fuse box. Right in front, whoops, is Joan Rivers, and she says, "I love this theater." Even in death, Rodney Dangerfield gets no respect because his autograph is behind this fuse box. So I can't show you that. John Gavin, he was the movie Psycho. He was Janet Leigh's boyfriend in the movie Psycho, and he was also, I believe, the ambassador to Mexico under Ronald Reagan, Danny Glover, Anita Baker. Okay, I'm going to come over here. So those of you that know the Hollywood Squares, here's Peter Marshall, and he signed it in 1986. Bob Hope, Jackie Vernon, Tanya Tucker, Robert Goulet, Carole King, 1993. Rita Moreno, right here. Howie Mandel, people know him from America's Got Talent, but he was here in 87 and 93. Johnny Cash and June Carter Cash, right there. Let's see, I'm going to come over this way now. Guy Lombardo. Should old acquaintances be forgot? Be down below B.B. King. Over here we have Tammy Wynette right there. They signed at separate times, but Natalie Cole and Nat King Cole are together. Mitch Miller with the bouncing ping pong ball in his lyrics on his show. Let's see, Walter Cronkite is some Walter Cronkite right there. I'm going to tip this a little, I think, because I believe there's Ray Charles and Tony Orlando right there. Let's see, I thought there was somebody else. Big skiing person is Warren Miller. We show a lot of his movies over there, Warren Miller. Up on the top, Deborah Norville, right there. Kathy Rigby. To the right, we have Johnny Mathis. Willard Scott. I'm going to come over here again. Tommy Toome, Mr. Broadway. Let's see, Cab Calloway is right there. Let's see, Bernadette Peters is underneath right there. You step back a little bit, Ralph Macchio, the Karate Kid, is right there. And then I'm going to have you come in here for a little bit. I'm going to have you go in front of me because it'll be easier to see. So to the right here, there's, where is he? Vincent Price, Mr. Horror, King of Horror. We have Helen Hayes right there. Danny Thomas is way in there. That's Danny Thomas. Love Danny Thomas. Then some of our newer ones. Carol Burnett right there. Joan Baez right there. Ally McGraw down below. And I'm good. Yeah, we could move that chair. There's Peter, Paul, and Mary right there. Mary Travers. Yeah, see Peter, Paul, and Mary. And then I don't know if I can move this to just a little bit. But if we can get in a little, there's Jay Leno's face right there. It's hard to see, but he's got this angled chin right there. Again, Johnny Mathis, we signed it again there. And then over this way, here's the original Catwoman, Eartha Kitt. Woman's Liber, am I saying that right? Am I saying that right? Women's Rights, Gloria Steinem. Jackie McLean up there. Jack Cassidy. The list kind of goes on and on. I can tell you the first person who signed the wall was Fred Waring, and his family became famous. He was a local, I believe, radio announcer and stuff. His family became very famous for the Waring blender, and that's what they were known for. And Judy Garland apparently profusely thanked the then electrician David Champ for allowing her to sign the wall. And he described her as the most pleasant celebrity he's ever met over the years. Ready? So out here, I don't know if we can see that. I don't know, are you able to see that? Or is it too dark? Lily Tomlin right there. Estelle Parsons. Shirley Jones. So a couple of extra things. So we're going to walk to the Belding Theater, which is just across the way, and I'm going to show you their version of a signature wall. But another celebrity, when she came here, some of her demands were Ina Garten, who's a celebrity TV chef on the Food Network. When she came, she demanded a security person on her from the moment she arrived to the moment she left. She requested that the Star's dressing room be clean, but without any event of sense, because she was very sensitive to that. And thirdly, that there was a charcuterie board, a fruit plate, and coffee and tea waiting for her. So it depends on who the star is. The demands sometimes get a little different. Okay. So this is the signature wall of the Belding Theater. It's not run as strict as the one in Martinson Hall, but I'll point out a few of the autographs that you might recognize. So there's Jim Brickman, a recording artist. Up above is Dan Rather, right there. And then Diana Ross, when her daughter came for performance, Diana Ross actually signed the wall right there. And then Loretta Swit, she likes to eat up a lot of real estate in the signature wall. Loretta Swit loves the Bushnell, right there. Theater. Believe it or not, this stage area in the Martinson Hall stage area is very close in size, same size. A lot more technology in this theater. 900, you're looking at 907 seats, which is interesting because in the theater, the mezzanine level was 988 seats. So it gives you a little bit of a comparison between the two. In the mid-1990s, a study was done in this area, and it was decided that a smaller theater was needed to better serve local art groups. $37 million was raised. And this building became to fruition. So it was designed by Boston firm Wilson Butler Lodge and Simsbury firm Schoenhardt Architects. The interior is also inspired by Art Deco. You can see the rug is a little bit more modern Art Deco. The theater is used for smaller needs, dance recitals, intimate discussions, shows that don't demand a 2,800 audience. For instance, Giada De Laurentiis, another TV chef, she came here. They had just a discussion back and forth. CPTV, Connecticut Public Television, did a recording of Matthew Morrison, who was Mr. Glee from the TV show Glee. They taped a show for that channel here as well. But there are a lot of smaller needs for this. Max Belding, which is this theater's named after, he donated $4 million towards this theater. There are 9 dressing rooms accommodating approximately 80 performers. Like I said, 907 patrons here versus 988 in the mezzanine level over there. There are 2 private viewing boxes. I'm sorry, to the left and the right in the audience. I'm in the balcony right there to the left. One of these is called the governor's box. I don't know what the other one is, but there's one on each side. It's a private box. It has 6 comfortable chairs in it. Anybody can rent those. You can buy a ticket for it. It's not like it's owned or anything. If it's available, you can certainly purchase the ticket. In the back, that center window is a private dining room that overlooks the theater, and they can put seating in there to accommodate sometimes late arrivals for the orchestra. The orchestra performs here quite a bit. Sometimes when there's a hold, they can't get in right away. Sometimes we put them up there. Up at the top is the projection booth, lighting, etc. No seat is more than 75 feet from the stage, which is very nice. Lighting has all been replaced by LED bulbs. On either side, you see those lights in the balcony area on both sides of the theater. On either side, we're not really showing it right now, but there's wood panels, like wood shades that can go up and down that accommodate sound engineering. So there's no electrical enhancements. The wood panels are just for sound. They can be raised and lowered. So in the other theater where I said it was 54 feet between the floor and the ceiling, here it's 52 feet, so it's pretty similar. Notice the mural. It's very similar to the original one in the other theater. It's a more modern version of the celestial beings. And it was designed by Boston artist Jim Piat in his Evergreen Studios in New York City. It's called Music of Spheres. It's a dazzling modern interpretation of the original hall's sun, moon, and stars Art Deco motifs. And this time, the panels can be lowered for cleaning, so it makes life a lot easier. And you can notice right above there, you can notice there is a catwalk right there. With the light, and up above here. Sorry. So one thing I couldn't show you in the other theater that I can show you here is theater rigging. Theater rigging, basically you want to move stuff from one part of the stage to another gracefully and eloquently. So if Peter Pan weighs 120 pounds, These are weights right here. All these little blocks right here are various weights. What they do is, and this happens to be a mechanical one, the rest are manual. What they do is they put the required amount of weights on here. Peter Pan is hooked to a wire, and somebody then just literally grabs the thing and goes like this, and all of a sudden there goes Peter Pan. Or here comes scenery that comes down, or scenery that goes up. Lighting comes up and down. That's how they do it. So it goes actually quite deep, and there are quite a few things. And what those things control, what these wires control, you can see how it goes all the way up there as well. It controls all the panels. It's hard to see, but right above the stage, you see these just lines of lights and stuff. But they have other lines that are used for scenery, etc. I had a loop here. We couldn't go on the stage because they were setting up for a show, and we literally saw some guy come over here and pull one of the levers, and all of a sudden here came a big drape that came down. They readjusted it, changed it, and then he did whatever he had to do, and it went right back up. So it allows shows to quickly add and remove scenery at will. I couldn't show you this in the Martinson Hall Theater because when Phantom of the Opera redid the back end of the theater, they actually raised this up. So it was kind of hidden from view. There's a house crew for each theater, so the building has its own crew versus the Martinson Hall. Sound person listens to everything and brings up microphones as needed. What's the show? When Miss Saigon first came to the Bushnell, there was more computers used for that show than when man first landed on the moon. So it's kind of crazy when you think about it. Another interesting fact I found, and I'm not sure why, a lot of firemen are stagehands. And I don't know if that's because it allows them scheduling. They can do it on their days off. They're familiar with emergency things, etc. I'm not sure. But I read that and I just went, I thought that was quite interesting. There's also a listening system that allows, you can bring your own little headset and you can plug it in, but if you have difficulty hearing the dialogue or whatever, it allows you to listen to all the dialogue because you just plug in, you put in your headset, and it picks up all the signals and stuff for the sound, and it's very easy. You just go to customer service, I think you leave them your license, it's free, at the end of the day, you just return it, you get your license back, and you don't have to worry about missing out on any special dialogue. Okay, I'm trying to think of put this away. I think we're going to go up and go to Autorino Great Hall. Oh, one thing, again, ghost light. And this right here, from where I'm standing forward, is the stage apron of this theater, and this houses 44 seats for this theater. And if you look at the back of the theater, what looks like ladders, little ladders to climb up. If I literally went to one of them and just turned it around like this, it's actually a nice panel, and it becomes the shell for the Hartford Symphony Orchestra. So it's really nice. Just watch this. Notice the carpeting. It's a more modern version of the celestials, the sun, the moon, the stars. So again, it's hard to believe when you kind of look at the theater. It is roughly the same size as the other theater, the big Memorial Hall. It just doesn't house as big of an audience. But the stage presence is pretty much the same. So I'm taking you to Autorino Great Hall. It's a nice reception space that is used for quite a lot of performances, as well as private functions. So here we are in Autorino Great Hall. This is a great reception space. Gatherings before, after performances. There's weddings here, bar mitzvahs, birthdays, retirement parties. Pick a function, it's been here. Anthony Autorino who unfortunately just passed away, I believe it was last year. He donated $1.25 million towards this room, and he was chairman of the building committee. What I want to talk about is the Chihuly chandelier, and it's the showpiece of the building, basically. It was donated at a cost of $500,000 by Jean-Pierre and Marie-Claire Van Roy of Farmington. He was president of Otis Elevator at the time. It's titled Ode to Joy, because the first piece of music that was played in the original Bushnell was Ode to Joy. It's designed by Dale Chihuly. He's the most acclaimed glass artist in our country, probably since Tiffany, in USA Today. He's a Tiffany of our time, I should say. So Ronna Reynolds met with the Van Roys and Dale Chihuly at a local restaurant and came up with the design and the color. So some of the stuff that I had read and some of the stuff that I was told was that they used ketchup and mustard to get that color. And so Ronna Reynolds, again, came to one of our tour guide meetings, and I asked her, I said, is that really true? And she burst out laughing. She says, I'm not sure where that came from, unless somebody just heard it in passing and said, oh yeah, that's what it is. She said, actually, it's Agnosto bitters and red wine on a white tablecloth. And they used it on a white tablecloth at a local restaurant. They ended up taking the tablecloth, framing it, and gave it to the donor as a parting gift. The piece is 14 feet long by 8 feet wide. It weighs 2,500 pounds, and there's 600 pieces of glass. So I believe, I'm told that there's a metal cone structure in there, and each piece is wired to that cone structure. We did, as volunteer, tour guide, we did get the ability to see them clean it. It is cleaned once a year. Dale Chihuly has special dusters, special sprays, special cloths. The team who cleans it, they take out a $2 million insurance policy to do this. They watched this video by Dale Chihuly, and they've been doing this for years. There is a setting called cleaning setting. They press the button and it lowers it to cleaning setting. There's a tall ladder, a medium ladder, and a baby ladder. These three people literally wipe each piece. You know, they almost look like little Swiffer dusters, but they're designed in such a way that if they dropped or something, they wouldn't damage the sculpture in itself. I did ask if any pieces broke, you know, can they tell the condition? They thought it was still in really good condition here. And I can attest to the fact that they do clean it because while we were here, a big hunk of cheese fell out. So there must have been some catering effect here, or catering party, or whatever. And you know, when there's cubed cheese on a platter or something, somebody must have taken a piece of cubed cheese and threw it up. That stuck in there, and as they were cleaning it, it fell out. So they do spend roughly a good half day, if not more, cleaning this piece. Some of the areas that also house his stuff, well, his stuff is worldwide, but locally it's in the New Britain Museum of Art. It's on at Mohegan Sun Casino, and I know it's on the Disney cruise ships, the Disney Magic and Wonder cruise ships. They wanted it to be a vibrant and colorful message of joy for visitors of Hartford and for all the people living and visiting Hartford as well. So just upstairs, just to let you know, there is a private dining room that is, it was a gift of Beverly and Arnold Greenberg. It was renovated in 2019. Donors who give about $250 a year have access, they can begin having access to that restaurant. And what that is that for those of you in the Hartford area, it functions very much like a Max restaurant. It's not free, you just have the ability to reserve a table there and you have dinner there. And it's actually very good, it's very pleasant. And then you can come here early for a show, so you get pretty good parking, you have dinner there, and then you go to a show in the theater and they escort you there. So it works really, really well. And like I said, there is a private box in there. Again, you can rent this space, you can rent that space as well. That pretty much is it. That pretty much summarizes the tour. So it's been my pleasure, and I'm hoping to see on a personal tour when we reopen up. And again, there's 10 tour guides, and we can accommodate you, and we'd be more than happy to welcome you back. So thanks so much for joining. Take care.